What's happening? Welcome back to Midnight Entertainment, official X Midnight here, and today marks a very special video for you guys. Because this channel covers a lot of Borderlands 3 content, it is only fitting for us to tell you a little bit more about the newest upcoming title from Gearbox, and that is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, launching on March 25th, 2022. From what we've seen so far, this is going to be the biggest game in the franchise and will also feature the biggest changes to the usual Borderlands formula. This game is going to throw quite a lot at you, so the purpose of this video today is to lay it all out simple for you and of course get you hyped up for its launch next year. We've seen the reveal trailer from June 10th, 2021, we've also seen the gameplay trailer just recently on September 9th, and now, just 2 days ago, the producers of the game have revealed a lot more about what the game is going to offer. Obviously there's going to be a lot more coverage on this as we get closer to its launch, but for now, with the amount of information that's been shown to us so far, we're going to clear all that up for you, give it a lot more clear sense, and give it the light that it truly deserves. As always, if you like what you see, hit us with a wee subscribe as it would mean the absolute world to us. Give this video a quick like, hit that notification bell, and check out more on what we do in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into Wonderlands. First off, as I said before, this is going to be the biggest change to the usual Borderlands format, and the way Gearbox is primarily doing this is by throwing in Dungeons and Dragons. It's going to feature a lot of things that will already get Dungeons and Dragons fans hyped up. This is also a direct continuation to the Dragon's Keep DLC from Borderlands 2, where Tiny Tina is essentially your dungeon master, so she is in control of whatever you have to face whilst fighting through this brand new fantasy world. Tiny Tina is perfect for this role because she just has that inherently chaotic nature. She creates all of the enemies, the areas, she will even be voicing some of the enemies in fantastic Tiny Tina comedic fashion, and that is of course what dungeon masters have to do. They just have to act out a lot of things for any campaign that they run. The way the game will be primarily formatted is that instead of using a main hub like Sanctuary from the previous Borderlands games, this will instead feature a third-person map which the designers are calling the Overworld, with a bobblehead version of your character walking through it, travelling to individual nodes to start missions and boss fights, and then when you select a node, you will zoom into first person mode and play through that individual mission or boss fight. Whenever you're done with that particular area, you're now transported back into the overworld and continue your journey. This is a very board game like thing to do and sticks with their plan of changing this game up as much as possible. This is going to be really interesting. The fact that you have a near full third person representation of your journey instead of the usual individual maps and travelling to different worlds, this gives a lot of perspective and overview into the entire game world itself. So that is how the game will be laid out, so let's talk about the core gameplay now. Character customization is going to be the most in-depth element of this game right out of the gate. Think of this like a full-length D&D character sheet, where you can not only go into real depth on creation, like changing your body type and size, hair, eyes, skin colour, race, clothing and accessories, even your character's voice and overall personality, but you will also have D&D similar stats to work with. Throughout the game you will be earning hero points, which are separate from your skill points to your skill trees, which you can spend in improving your ability scores. These will be strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom and charisma. Putting your points into those primary ability scores will also speak to more Borderlands specific capabilities like skill cooldowns, spell effectiveness, melee effectiveness and so on and so forth. There will also be an endgame ability made completely separate from your hero points, and that will be luck, which you can complete endgame challenges to improve and will obviously affect what kind of loot that you can obtain throughout the endgame content. On top of this, anything that you do aesthetically will not affect the capabilities of your character. You can choose whatever race, whatever body type and size, whatever you want, and it won't affect any skill trees or what abilities and weapons you can gain later on in your playthrough. I was hoping to see some details on numerous characters, and if you need to play through the entire campaign with each character to get into endgame or max level, but unfortunately those details haven't yet been confirmed. I hope that there's a way that you can immediately get any new character into endgame after you've completed it with your first character, but hopefully we see something that sheds some more light on this aspect later down the line. Next up there is your character classes, and this is one of the other bigger changes to the usual Borderlands format. Your character will be outfitted with a primary class out of the selection of 6 character classes, and then later on in your playthrough, I assume this is when you hit endgame, you get to select a secondary class. Yes, you are getting a multi-class mechanic. This means that when you select your secondary class, you can combine skill trees from different classes and use them all at once. In that article that I've shared with you in the description, it was quoted that it would be similar to combining Borderlands 2's Gunzerker class with Borderlands 3's Siren class, and even though it won't be exactly the same as that, the devs have confirmed that this is how the formula is going to be. I mean, if you were to pick anything as an example, you could combine Zane with Moze. How insane would that be? Just for a little fun thing, hit us up in the comments of what interesting combinations you can come up with. I'd be excited to see the possibilities. Also, on top of a multi-class mechanic, respecing will still be a thing in Wonderlands, but you will only be able to respec your secondary class. So when you're going through your initial playthrough, just a quick heads up, be very careful of what your primary class is going to be, because that can no longer be changed in the future on that particular character. And finally, we can now get into the loot itself, and I have to say this is the most interesting out of the bunch. Overall, we are getting guns, spells, and melee weapons. The guns themselves will not only share the similar feel from previous Borderlands games, but we will also be seeing different types of barrels and alternative fires on those weapons. You can see in the clip that's playing just now that you can actually get guns with a crossbow alternative fire. With your melee weapons, you can get axes, swords, spears, and other varied fantasy weapons. And we've also been told that when it comes down to attacking with these particular weapons, and you're just slightly out of range of an enemy, you can actually slide towards that enemy. Yes, sliding is still in the game. Then you can hit your attack with your character and glide towards that enemy to close that distance automatically. This makes melee weapons in general become a lot more effective in battle scenarios, quickly closing distance, throwing out attack combos, and just going mental with it. Combos don't just exist with melee weapons, you can also combine your gun and melee attacks with your spells. I can only assume that these spells will replace your grenades from previous Borderlands titles. We've seen in the footage that these will also be imbued with certain status effects, so we can solidly confirm that statuses like incendiary, corrosive, radiation, shock, and cryo that we all know from Borderlands 2 and 3 will still exist in Wonderlands. Freezing an enemy and then throwing out a melee attack combo will possibly be one of the best show-off things to do here. And that's just one example of what we could do with the massive sandbox that the devs are going to give us here. So that is it from me for just now. I hope you enjoyed the video and that I gave you enough information to persuade you to get this, because this game is going to be huge in every shape or form. And we still have a lot more information to get from Gearbox as we get closer to its launch in March 25th. I'll be sure to cover any updates as they come to us, and when the game releases we will be covering it on our channel, and we will also be streaming it live on Twitch immediately on launch day. Have a fantastic rest of the day folks, and I will see you in the next video. Peace!